Today, this is Day at the Games. I'm Forrest. Tommy Marquez joining me inside the Alliant Energy Center. But before we get to teams, let's wrap up day one. The individuals kicked things off yesterday. Let's start with the men. We'll talk top three. Joona came out pretty hot to start the day.
Yeah, a national level swimmer out in Finland. Does pretty well when there's a swim event at the CrossFit Games. No surprise, he wins that first event, gets to don the white leader's jersey. Despite a little stumble out of the gates in event 2, holds on for an 11th place finish, good enough to keep him atop the overall leaderboard. Going into event 3, he got into a little foot race with Brent Fikowski. You see him on the right-hand side of your screen. Just barely sneak into frame, just enough for a 13th place finish. Still holds on to the lead despite some shakeups on the leaderboard. And you know what? Another top 10 finish to close out day number 1 is good enough to keep him in a podium position. He lost the overall lead, but he is in third. Justin Medeiros trying to build on the third place finish last year at the Games in his rookie season. Sophomore campaign, so far so good. 5th, 15th, 11th, and then his best performance of day 1, a second place finish in the Coliseum, moves him up into second overall. And your overall leader, the tallest athlete in the field, giving all those big guys a little hope, the rig shaker and the professor, Brent Fikowski, didn't necessarily have a event win type performance, a top 10 performance on the first 2 events, 8th and 7th, a 12th in the sprint, just enough to keep him hanging around the top 3, and then a classic professor performance once we got into the Coliseum. You know, wall walks, heavy thrusters for a taller, heavier athlete, maybe not his best event, but he still manages a top 3 finish, and it moves him into the overall lead.
Yeah, finishes third, has 3 top 10 finishes out of 4 after day 1. But someone who also dominated on the women's side of things starts the day off with 3 straight event wins. That's Tia-Clair Toomey.
Yeah, everybody's wondering, all right, how is Tia going to kick off her quest for a 5th consecutive CrossFit Games title? Well, I'll tell you, 3 straight event wins. She comes out in the swim. We expected her to win that, but then very coyly, you know, just played it easy through the first half of that chipper, and then at the bar muscle-ups goes unbroken in the second set and marches her way to another event win with that sled. Coming back to the sprint, well, she was a university-level sprinter. Track was her original sport before CrossFit, and she showcased how with incredible pacing, beautiful run technique, and by the time she turned into the North Park venue, she was head and shoulders above the rest of the field, blowing away everyone else and beating the top time from Brooke Wells set in a previous heat to make it 3 for 3 to start day number 1. The only, I guess, quote-unquote blemish was a second place finish inside the Coliseum, but 397 points out of a possible 400, phenomenal.
Yeah, and you talk about the one event that she lost. That was to Mal O'Brien, who you see there in 10th. You see a ton of youngsters there. Haley Adams right behind her. No surprise, because we saw what she could do at the MAC sitting behind Tia-Clair Toomey. And, you know, Haley Adams, she's in 2nd. Mal O'Brien's in 10th. Emma Carey is in 14th. So we've got some youngsters who are starting to kind of find their way into the CrossFit space. And Sean Woodland talked about the rise of these 3 young ladies.
CrossFit is a young sport, but age and experience still rule. But their days may be numbered. A youth movement is underway, and it's 3 women who are leading it. Haley Adams, Mal O'Brien, and Emma Carey are the future of the sport of fitness. The future has arrived in 2021. 20-year-old Haley Adams is making her 3rd appearance as an individual at the CrossFit Games. She won the 16 to 17-year-old division in 2018 and is a contender to win another medal this year. Mal O'Brien and Emma Carey aren't old enough to vote, but both of them could have a say in how the podium plays out at the Games this year. The 2 17-year-olds have been competing since they became teenagers. Their physical skills are impressive, but it's their mental fortitude that has allowed them to outshine some veteran athletes this season. CrossFit is a young sport. The competitors are getting younger, but they are also getting better. And age and experience may not beat youth and skill for much longer.
All right, so the three youngsters making a move and making a nice little rise, and who knows where they'll finish at the end of the week, but they've been exciting to watch so far.
Yeah, Haley Adams really kind of set the precedent for young athletes as far as the women's division is concerned for success at the games. You know, making it the past two years inside of the top 10. Well, now Mal O'Brien and Emma Carey took that ball and ran with it, now qualifying before they're even aged up into the individual division, and so far it has been just a treat to watch these three young women.
All right, moving on to the events of the day, and that is the team competition. And as always, everybody's chasing mayhem, but there are other teams who you think could be on their heels, Tommy.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be tough to unseat the four-time champs, but really there's a couple of teams that I think are going to lean on their experience in some way, shape, or form to try and push for one of those podium spots. And the first one is going to be Pro 1 Montreal, the team out of Canada. They won the Atlas Games. They have an individual games athlete in Chloe Gavin-David on their team. The last time they were at the games, 2009, they finished 9th. That was a year when they had super teams, when they still were an affiliate team. So I think they could maybe move up the standings now that we've switched back to a more classical affiliate standing. Then Omnia, another team that's been to the games multiple times. They have an entirely new roster this season, but I guarantee you the people from that affiliate are reminding them that the last time they were at the games, they had to withdraw. And so now they're going to carry a little chip on their shoulder trying to improve upon that.
Yeah, you know, chasing down Mayhem's going to be a task, and it's interesting because they switch over to the Affiliate Cup, but it's still the same dominance for Mayhem. But we'll take a look at how things could be different for these guys this year.
In 2014, everybody kind of knows I stepped away from individual to focus on my family, but be able to still scratch that itch to compete, and team was that way to do that.
CrossFit Mayhem is a fitness institution. It starts obviously with Rich Froning, the founder and owner of CrossFit Mayhem, and him being the four-time individual champion from 2011 to 2014. But then he was also able to parlay that into success at the team level as well.
Rich is at a part of his career where he doesn't have to play anymore. He still loves to be a part of the community, still loves to compete.
I still, you know, have that drive, that want to compete, but to be the best in the world at anything, you have to be a little bit obsessive. There's no balance in life, and so I knew my family needed to be at the forefront of that. When the Open comes around, I don't enjoy it because they're all individual workouts and all that stuff, and I'm just like, not about that life. It's the shared suffering. It's the beauty of the CrossFit community, I think. It's so much more fun to, like, you know, high-five your teammates and get fired up for them and see them do things. And like I said, you watch them sacrifice and see the sacrifice that they put in. And so when we all succeed, it's a whole lot more fun and a whole lot more rewarding. Can't wait for the quarterfinals and we get to start doing team stuff again.
This year, the team competition, it was announced that we were moving away from super teams and back towards a true affiliate cup. So what that means is that team members actually have to live in close proximity to one another within 100 miles, and they have to train predominantly with each other.
So for Team Mayhem, it meant 3 new people.
I think in addition to the shock that we had as fans, I think for Rich, it was the thought that, hey, does this mean that I'm retired?
Until last year, never thought of what my life would be after competing in CrossFit. And then not having the games for teams last year, I was like, wow, it's kind of nice. Honestly, really had no intention, especially with the way the rules were when they first came out, of competing. But Chase, my wife's cousin, he wanted to compete, and he was like, hey, you know, let's do this. Our goals for the team are always to win the CrossFit Games. I don't think there's any other goal. I don't think anybody else on the team has another goal either. I think this is it. What we're going for is winning it.
Great to see that clip from the Miles to Madison YouTube series that I was very fortunate to be a part of. CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, you know, the 7 games appearances, that's a little misleading because the first 2 appearances, Mr. Froning wasn't a part of the team. So every time that he's been on the team, 5 podium finishes, 4 times they have won. The new addition of Andrea Nisler, Taylor Williamson this year, 2 of the best females in the game as far as the team competition is concerned, only going to make them stronger. The rich get richer, if you will.
Yeah, nice pun. Yeah, the dominance of Mayhem, will it continue? We will find out. Monster Ultra is bringing some fresh energy to the CrossFit Games. Learn more at monsterenergy.com/CrossFit. CrossFit. But that will do it for Day at the Games for now. Stay tuned. The team events will begin shortly.
Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Hello. How are you?
Excited.
Ready to go, right?
Yeah.
I'm so stoked. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna hang out here all day.
Yeah, so here's your locker. Welcome to the NOBULL CrossFit Games. Congrats.
That is so cool. That's so awesome.
Dude, I'm ready.
We're gonna go right over here. Hello. Good. Good. How are you? Good.
The Affiliate Cup is back. It has been 2 years since we've had a team competition, and this year's version will look a lot different than 2019. Thanks for being with us, everybody, for the opening day of team competition at the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. I'm Sean Woodland with Chase Ingram. Nikki Brazier and Mike Arsenault are out at Lake Monona. They will be here in just a second. The super teams are no more, Chase, and that means that there are a lot of unknowns heading into the team competition this year.
Yeah, Sean, he said it's been 2 years since we've had team competition, but 3 since the affiliate teams are back. And it means we have a lot of unknown names, a lot of unknown teams that have collectively changed over the last 3 years since 2018.
The opening event for the teams will take place in the water, and this is what we have become accustomed to seeing as far as an opening event is concerned at the CrossFit Games.
Classic way to start, especially when you're talking about an open water swim. We're bringing back the kayak that we had from the individual competition, but we're not using fins, and it's a much shorter course. So what does that mean? It's going to be a lot more intense for these athletes than it was for the individuals.
Yesterday, when the individuals were in the water, the conditions were relatively calm. That is not the case today, and for more on the weather, here's Mike Arsenault.
Thank you very much, Sean. Weather conditions much different than what the individuals faced yesterday for their first event of the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. We had a line of severe thunderstorms move through Madison through the overnight, and that has left some difficult conditions here on the water. Water temperature right now is around 26 degrees Celsius, which is 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Air temperature, 23 degrees Celsius, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. But of course, the big story, I think, today will be the wind. We're seeing gusts anywhere between 10 and 12 miles per hour. For the U.S. audience, for everyone else watching around the world, that is between 17 and 20 kilometers per hour. I don't know what that is in yachts just yet, as I've just learned port and starboard. However, I think the wind will play a factor during the kayak portion of this event. Navigating these winds will prove difficult, I think, for many teams. For more on the transitions that the teams will be facing here on Event 1, here's my colleague, Nikki Brazier.
What I have here might be one of the most important elements in this event, the paddle. The women have to come in after the kayaking is over, drop their boat, but still hang on to the paddle, run up to the beach, and hand it off to the men. The men will then run down the beach and dump the paddle before getting into the water for their swim. Now, this event features a lot of individual work. The athletes do not have to stay together when they're in the water, but when they come back up to the beach, they'll have to come back together as a team and remember to do this paddle handoff. If they forget, they'll have to run back down the beach and grab them before they'll be able to proceed.
Thank you, Nikki. One thing that is not unknown this year, who the top dogs in this competition are, and that is CrossFit Mayhem Freedom.
Well, they just reloaded with Taylor Williamson and Andrea Nisler, and in my opinion, after watching nearly a decade of team competition, they are the 2 best female athletes to ever grace the competition floor for the teams. And you pair that with Rich and Chase, this is one of the best teams ever assembled. We say there's no more super teams except for CrossFit Mayhem, and they just happen to do it out of their own affiliate.
They are the defending champions from 2019. They will be wearing the yellow swim caps in order to designate that fact. Everyone else will be in blue. Their team number will be on the side. The women will start first. They do not need to stay together during this swim. Once both women are back, the men will then take over, and then once both men are back, that will be the end of the event for their team.
Well, it's good that they don't look nervous at all for what's about to take place here on the lake. And as we're getting ready for an open water swim, there's a major difference between a pool, which if they did even put any swim work in, which they should have, we said this is a very classic event to have at the CrossFit Games, is a swim. Right? They should have put in the work, but it's a lot different in the lake.
The first time the individuals were in the water, that was 2011. The teams got in the water for the first time in 2014. 7th time that we've got them in the water. And the last time that we had a swim event was 2019, and it was Invictus, a team out of San Diego, that won that event.
And that's a distance that's twice as long as what they have here today. So like I said, it's going to be a shorter event, a lot more intensity. It's still going to take about 10 to 12 minutes to get through this for a decent swimmer here at the Games.
10 seconds. Stand by.
Event number 1 for the teams has begun, and unlike the individuals who started in the water, the women will have that sprint down the beach into Lake Monona, and then they will start that 500-meter swim. And again, teammates do not need to stay together on this swim.
You can see who has the swim experience, and especially ocean swimming experiences at entrances. You see the front athlete doing that dip dive. That's really called ducking or dolphining, is where you dive forward, jump off the bottom, and run through. All that is it gets you further, it's actually faster, and you save yourself for the swim. So if I was a uncomfortable swimmer, I would do exactly what's happening here. I'm just gonna run out as far as it's gonna allow me to and just save my arms for the rest of the swim. So this is a good strategy for those top athletes in front.
Opening portion here of the swim, a lot of athletes still on their feet, choosing to navigate through the water. Just
I would run as long as I could, really. Yeah. Especially if you're not comfortable in the water. You run until you can't touch the bottom of the lake anymore. And you're gonna see the athletes that have a lot of, swim experience, and you're gonna see a lot more diverse athletes on the team side, right? There's gonna be more of them, and you have a lot of different abilities around them. What you see there, that is going to be something we need to keep our eye on, and from a safety perspective as this event goes on.
That is Corinne Schrum from 1855. She just learned to dog paddle last week, so they are allowing her to compete in a life jacket. They're keeping a close eye on her, but she is going to take her time getting through this portion of the event.
And some people, because people are awesome around the internet, but they're gonna be like, oh, how is that fair? Is that you're gonna let this athlete have a life jacket to help them swim? Is like, that's not helping them swim.
Right.
It's keeping them from drowning. There is a very big difference between helping someone swim and just keeping them afloat. And that's all this is gonna do. And her teammates is gonna stick with her. And I love that, because for this event, for each pairing, you're only as fast as your slowest athlete. So if you're the best swimmer on your team, it does your team no favor. So you see someone just backstroking out of camera left to right. It does your team no favors to just go out there as fast as you can, right? The strategy really should be is just stay with your teammate.
Right.
If I'm a great swimmer and you're not, would you be more comfortable as a bad swimmer if I stayed with you the entire time?
Absolutely.
And guided you through that. So why would you just abandon your teammate out there unless they said they don't care, they don't need you? But here's the benefit. If you're the great swimmer, you can actually help your bad swimmer. And I don't mean that from a cheering section or a rah-rah deal. You can physically help your partner by doing something called drafting. And drafting in swimming is one of the, I would say, most effective ways to help your partner. And there's 2 ways to do it. You can do it from the side, where you have to get really close to your partner. You want your head to be right about hip level. And you can ride their wake, almost like riding a wave on body surfing, right? Your body's gonna create a wake a little bit off to the side, and you can ride that. Now the problem with that is that you have a tendency to run into your teammate if you're too close to the side because of how close you have to get. And if you draft from the side, it actually slows the lead swimmer down, because you're riding a wake that they're creating, and it's almost pulling them back a little bit. So really, the best way to draft in swimming is from behind.
We believe that's Taylor Stride who's out front for Blue City Athletics, and it would make sense. Broke 8 records in college in 2012. Clearly knows her way through the water, and she is out front for Blue City Athletics.
She knows her way through the water, but she doesn't know how to sight. She just swam 10 yards to the right, and you see she had to massively correct her position. Now, is that going to affect how fast she is? No. She's just going to swim a little bit further, but she'll still be faster than everybody.
Taylor Stride out front for Blue City Athletics, but remember, it doesn't matter when your first athlete crosses. When your second athlete comes in, that's when the men can start. And that's from the kayak.
Right, and this is an out and back. It's 250 meters-ish out and 250 meters-ish back for that 500 swim. And What I mean by siding is that you do a little peek across the surface. And here's actually a really good look of the difference of, I would say, the chop or the water than it was yesterday for the individuals. Yesterday it was basically glass on the lake, but we had that storm blow through last night. It was very windy this morning, and we heard it was picking up right before the race started. That makes a massive difference in your speed and the way you can get a rhythm on the lake. So that does matter, but what you want to look is the way they sight. You breathe to the right, you lay your arm out, and you just rotate your torso. But what Taylor's doing is she's doing like a stop, a breaststroke to look up and see where she's going. And that's not how you sight in open water swimming. What you want to do is just peek up just a little bit as if you're taking a breath, but instead of breathing to the side like Taylor's doing now, is you do a little breath peek forward. So that was a much better sight we saw from her.
Chris Hinshaw is a man who knows a whole lot about swimming in open water, and he is with Nikki Brazier.
Chris, I think that there are so many different techniques and so many different sort of viewpoints on this event. To you, as you are the aerobic capacity expert and the endurance expert, what are some of the cruxes of the event for the athletes here?
So I love this event. I mean, first of all, this is an event, people think of it as two events, swimming and kayaking, but in fact, it's really the same movement patterns, the same muscle groups over and over again. And so if you're a great kayaker and a mediocre swimmer, the swimming is going to take your kayaking speed away. The other thing in this event that is really appealing to me is it's going to test the team ability, meaning are they able to move together? Can they work as a pair? Have they been training these movements together? And that's a really important aspect because it involves this concept of drafting, which is going to be a major play in this event if they can do it.
So if you're not familiar with the kayak, but you are a strong swimmer, maybe that's an implement that's new for you, what are the muscles that you're going to have to be using? What's going to be particularly taxed when they're done?
So swimming is a rotational sport, so is kayaking. It's similar to the movement of golf. And so what we're going to also do is use the smaller muscles of the shoulder. And if you are holding your paddle high, you're going to use the same muscle groups that you do in swimming. And that's the preferred technique for kayaking, is keep it above the shoulder height, like somewhere around the cheeks and the eyes. The problem is that if you don't have the stamina, because of the swim, you're going to drop the paddle. And when you drop the paddle, in order to clear the hull of the boat, you're going to have to put the paddle out wide, which is going to cause you to fishtail in the water. So ideally, you want to keep the paddle high because that's a much faster option. But if you haven't put in your time, that's not going to be able to work for you.
All right, so this is the start of the team competition. So there's a lot more going on here than just technique in the water. There's nerves, there's excitement, and sometimes an athlete can kind of throw the plan out the window because they're out there and they feel good and they're stoked to get going. How important is that when it comes to an event like this?
It's incredible. I mean, that's very well said. It's incredibly important. And the problem is the way in which Dave started this event. They had to start from the beach and storm the water. They had to attack the water, and that makes it very difficult to keep an eye on your partner. All of a sudden, your partner's there, and then a second later, they're gone. And once you get in the water, everybody looks the same. And so it's going to turn the swim into an individual event for the women. The question is do you want to wait for your partner and work as a team during the kayaking session, or do you just go? And that's where it takes some composure.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you very much.
Always great to hear from Chris Hinshaw.
It is, and I'll answer the second question that he had is yes, you do want to wait for your partner for the kayak especially. You can make, Chris is totally right. In the water, you can't really, everyone's wearing blue caps, everyone has goggles on. If I were a coach, I would have given my athletes very bright colored goggles that are easily identifiable between all the pairs out here. But yeah, when you finish, great. Wait for your teammate because you can have, the way you guys can work together on the kayak is going to be much more manageable than here on the swim.
Taylor Stride working her way out of the water for Blue City Athletics. Let's go down to Mike Arsenault, who's on the water.
Thank you very much, Sean. Well, we've all been watching the Olympics over the past week, a lot of swimming coverage. We all know that the front crawl is the fastest method of swimming. We're seeing actually 3 different techniques with the women here so far. Also seeing breaststroke and backstroke. So Chase, the question for you is, obviously we know that the front is fast. Athletes mix it up in front stroke and backstroke. Does that all have to do with the comfort level, or is there something?
So the question is, I'm assuming it's just the stroke preferred here. In comfortability and speed, you're going to talk front crawl or freestyle is what most of the public knows as that, but it is actually the same stroke. Backstroke is there for comfortability level, so people can lay on their back and breathe freely, but they have no idea what direction they're going, right? You can't see that. Breaststroke is definitely, I would say, the most comfortable for a novice swimmer because they can keep their head above water the whole time, but it's definitely the slowest one. So freestyle, front crawl, even a combat side swim is one thing I would recommend for speed and comfortability as the combo of the two.
Taylor Stride was out front for Blue City. She was the first woman into her kayak. Andrea Nisler for Mayhem. And then an athlete from AOD Fitness grabbing her kayak.
I'm just very surprised that nobody's waiting for their partner. There's no benefit to go faster. Right, so the only thing you're doing is you're working harder than you need to. And what you can actually do, and we said this before, you can draft in swimming, and it helps extremely. But you can draft on a kayak, and it's easier to do because you can see each other. You're out of the water. You can communicate. You can go faster as a pair than you can by yourself. That's a fact. So there's no reason to leave your partner behind by themselves. I don't understand what this thought process is.
More athletes making their way out of the water and to the kayak for the 1 mile. That they have to complete here. And as you keep saying, Chase, the men cannot start until both women are back.
Right. So you're going to finish first and you're just going to stand there and wait for your partner. Or you could sit there and wait and help your partner go faster. In fact, you can go faster together as a pair if you work together.
Taylor Williamson is coming out of the water for Mayhem. So both of their women will be on the kayak soon. We are doing our best to identify these athletes with no numbers as they ditch their swim caps and get on the kayak. We mentioned yesterday when conditions were calm how drafting on the kayak can be so valuable. You got to think that the conditions the way they are today, that becomes even more of a valuable technique if you can use it.
100% yes. Yesterday we had clear water. Glass waters. Williamson is coming out of the water for Mayhem. Nisler's already ahead. And look, the water's choppy. That's going to slow your boat down or your kayak down, right? And so what is needed is that when you draft, we talked yesterday about maximum hull speed, and I'm not going to go through the whole algorithm it takes to calculate that, but it's simple terms as the bigger the kayak, the faster it has the potential to go. Now, what's cool about drafting is two things, is that if you park right behind your partner, their partner is going to pull you faster. It takes, I would say, on average, it's about a 30% decrease in energy expended when you're drafting on your partner. So how do you work together, right? You go front to back or bow to stern, right? And you just sit behind your partner. And what you do is like, hey, for 20 seconds, you're going to pull harder than you think you can sustain, say, for a minute. And then I'm just going to ride your coattails for that 30 seconds, and then we'll switch. But here's the great part, is that if you can get close enough, right, the front end of your boat to the back, we said the bigger the boat, the better. If you get close enough, the way the water goes across is that actually turns one boat or two separate boats into one big one. And so you getting behind your partner actually makes the front person faster. So collectively, it makes the whole pairing faster just because you're parked behind each other. So again, there's no reason not to be drafting with your partner here.
The kayaks are the same ones that the individuals used yesterday. just over 11 feet in length, about 2.5 feet wide. They can hold 300 pounds. They weigh 58 pounds.
We were talking yesterday when the individuals were going, is that the max speed for the length of this kayak is somewhere between 4 to 4.5 miles per hour if you have the strength and the technique. It can't be one or the other.
Now rubbing is racing. We have a little bit of a collision there between Andrea Nisler and I think that was Taylor Stride, who was one of the first women out of the water in the yellow kayak for Blue City Athletics. Now they are dead even. But we talked to Allison Scott, she's a captain of the demo team, a couple days ago, and she was talking about this event. And she said exactly what you said. If you can find a way to draft out your off your partner, your 100% effort becomes about a 60% effort.
Oh, absolutely, and especially in chop like this. Yesterday it was nice, glassy conditions. It's pretty windy today. It doesn't look like much from the side.
I don't have much.
But from this position here, if you're on water level, that's a big difference. It's really going to slow you down. So listen, if you don't want to work together with your pair, then here's what I'm going to do, is that if you're going to go faster than me, I'm just going to pull it behind you and let you do your job and just coast on my way in. But that's enough separation where they're not going to have any effect on each other as far as drafting's concerned on the kayak. The other thing to look for, and they're both doing actually a very good job here, is look at the blade on the paddle. That's the green part on the paddle itself. The middle is that the shaft is in the middle, but the blade, it has a long end and a shorter end on the end of the blade, and you actually want the longer end of that top corner to be on top. So both of these athletes are actually using this the appropriate way as which they should for the kayak. Now for Nisler, who's leading in front, is she has a little bit of a side-to-side here in the front end of her kayak, and all that means is that the way she's pulling is more horizontal and side-to-side than it would be on a more vertical pull to keep her moving directly forward.
Send it down to Mike Arsenault.
Hi guys, Chase, I just wanted to build on your point about drafting and helping out your other teammates. I had a chance to speak to Pro 1 Montreal's coach, Roch Proteau, last night, and he said for Event 1, their team's goal is a mix of synchronizing yourself with the partner and also motivating each other, but with the consciousness of your partner's limit. That will be a key. So what would you suggest that if you have a stronger swimmer and a weaker swimmer, are they in direct contact with how much that better partner should be pushing? Because you don't want to burn out the person who might be a little bit weaker on the swim or the kayak. So how do you toe that line of pushing hard but not burning your partner out?
That's a great question, and it's really tough on the swim, right? Because you can't have any communication. But hopefully you've done enough in the past that you can keep a nice steady pace. And what that would be is on the swim is go right behind them. Have your hands as an extended reach right underneath their toes and allow them to pull through. And even if they're swimming a little faster in front, like we said, there's an average of a 30% increase of ease for that back person. And on the kayak, it's about the same thing, but you can communicate. You can say, hey, that's a little too fast. I need you to slow it down. But I would just park the weaker athlete behind me the whole time. I wouldn't do any switching at all for that back person. There's no need for them to work harder for me because I'll be just fine.
Andrea Nisler leads Taylor Stride from Blue City Athletics. Nisler, of course, with Mayhem Freedom. Once both women are in, the men can start. Let's go down to the shore where Nikki Brazier is standing by.
Take a look at the different postures that you see in the kayaks here. According to Chris Hinshaw, if the athletes are hunched over, it means that they're not using the foot pegs in the kayaks to brace themselves and straighten their backs up. And so they really aren't using the kayak as one piece of equipment. They're sort of separating themselves from the boat. And what that does is it compresses their chest, it makes it harder to breathe, and they lose power. So you can really tell which athletes have been practicing this or which have experience with this type of implement by the ones that are using the proper foot pegs to push their hips back and really send their shoulders back and up, creating an upright posture for the most amount of power.
Thank you, Nikki, and we need to wish Nikki a happy birthday today.
Happy birthday, Nikki.
We sang earlier. Hopefully that didn't make it on air.
We will not subject you to the sounds of our singing voice.
Andrea Nisler will be the first woman to complete her leg of this event, and she will have to wait on Taylor Williamson.
Yep, that's what you get to do by finishing first without your partner. You get to stand there and wait. It does nothing for your team.
And this is the transition that Nikki talked about, where the athletes will get out, they will carry their paddles and hand them to their male counterparts. Taylor Stride for Blue City Athletics was solidly in second place, but again, it's not where your first athlete is, it's where the second one is that determines really who is leading right now.
Yes, and we saw the last time we had a swim event with the 1,000-meter swim and the paddle board was they did a really cool thing, is a little bit of a traffic jam with these athletes, is that it was total time for every individual athlete. So it was incumbent that everybody did well so that the team did well. Here, you're at the mercy of your slowest athlete within each pair.
Hey, let me get five. Let me get five. Wait right here. Wait right here.
Now a lot of standing and waiting as the first athletes
I'm gonna go with the first team. Make their way. Here they come.
and we have one team with both of their, I believe that's I Love It. Team I Love It with their first two women in. So Carrie Beamer and Carissa Stapler through, Mitchell Stevenson and Justin Thompson making their way into the water. They are your leaders in this event.
That's actually a team that have very good quarterfinals coming into semis. I think one of their bigger weaknesses as a team is actually their strength overall as individuals, but as far as, you know, classic CrossFit events and apparently some of these outdoor events that you see at the CrossFit Games, is that's beneficial for them.
There's Taylor Williamson for Mayhem Freedom. As remember, Andrea Nisler was the first woman out of the water for that team. Williamson is getting set to join her teammates, and they will hand things off to Rich Froning and Chase Hill. It's I Love It. A pair of Mitchell Stevenson and Justin Thompson, who are out front in this event.
Now here's where the advantage is for the men's side. On the women, we had a mass chaotic start. So it's really hard to locate your teammate in a group of 70 to 74 athletes. But now with I Love It, is that you have a male pairing that are by themselves in the water, and you can work together much easier now that there's not a massive bodies between you and your counterpart. So I hope to see a lot more teamwork between the pairs on the men's side. Now it's a lot easier to identify them.
We had 3 teams with their male athletes into the water. I Love It was the first team in. And we'll look to get numbers off the swim caps of the other 2 teams. Blues City Athletics. Just heard Joshy G on the floor there make that announcement, as now Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson will hand things off to Rich Froning and Chase Hill, and they will have some work to do to catch up here. They quickly ditch the paddles, and quite a few teams now have their male athletes into the water.
It's in about 8th or 9th overall.
In the water. The crowd getting behind these teams.
More men getting into the water now.
Like West Chase just went by.
We do know this: the 2 men in the yellow swim caps, Rich Froning and Chase Hill.
I mean, you can identify Rich by his chest, even if he was face down in the water. That's how nice it is.
Leaves its own wake. 90-minute time cap here. This is the pair from I Love It. They were the first two into the water, Mitchell Stevenson and Justin Thompson. So far, working together.
Working together, and they're doing it by using what's called a combat side stroke. You see this a lot in military training, and what that is, it's a side stroke where you reach out with the front arm, but that lead arm stays underneath you the entire time, where that side arm, or the shoulder high one that's out of the water, that pulls across the front of your body. And this allows for, it's not the fastest pace in the world, but it's a steady pace, and you can breathe freely, which means you can communicate freely. And if this is the most comfortable way to do this, then I highly suggest that this being an option for you and your teammate.
Interested in becoming a CrossFit affiliate? Be sure to check out CrossFit.com/affiliate to learn more about what it means to be an affiliate and how to start the process.
See on the right side of your screen, that's more your classic freestyle than that side stroke that you see on the left side with I Love It. And here's what's the big question is, okay, you see this guy passing you, but where is the other one? Where is the slowest athlete? And if you have one really, really fast swimmer and the other one's way back, but your steady side stroke pairing finishes together, then it didn't really matter how fast your first athlete was.
Carissa Staff and Carrie Beamer did their work and gave Justin Thompson and Mitchell Stevenson a lead. Thompson is a volunteer firefighter with the Western Washington and majored in studio art with a minor in art history. Ran track at WWU.
You see everybody's so spread out, and one of the issues with a side stroke is that you got to make sure that you're looking forward. So the two leaders, or used to be leaders, on the left side are veering way off track to the left side of the course. And what you want to do is just follow the buoys. And with the most important buoy that you see is the double yellow. That's the turnaround. So you don't want to actually, they're not always typically in line. You can see the back buoy, the middle one, and there's a double one on the end. Is that spot the double one from way out there. It's pretty easy to see. There's no sun. It's very, very decent conditions to sight because you don't have any glare from the sun. So just swim directly at that.
The pair from I Love It, Thompson and Stevenson, they're on the left. Rich Froning is starting to track them down, and Chase Hill is not far behind Rich Froning. Froning moving out front of Mitchell Stevenson and Justin Thompson. Stevenson's the guy who's got some individual competitive experience as well. He was 32nd at the games in 2018 after being 5th in the Open, and now Rich Froning in a familiar spot in the lead. Chase Hill is on the right of your screen, so the two of them staying relatively close here.
And that's fine, right? If you don't want to draft and work together, fine. If you're both decently good at swimming, you don't have to worry about maybe slowing each other down to try to figure this out. So if you're successful or both decent at swimming, just get the work done. That's close enough between Rich and Chase.
We are in the second half of this opening team event. It began with a 500-meter swim for the women and then a 1-mile kayak, and now the men are on their portion of the 500-meter swim and then the 1-mile kayak. 90-minute time cap on this event as Rich Froning and Chase Hill are fighting with Mitchell Stevenson and Justin Thompson. They are in the blue swim caps for the lead. Chase Hill's in the back there. Rich Froning is right in the middle of your screen. And for more on Mayhem, let's go down to Mike Arsenault.
Thank you, Sean. Mayhem, the overwhelming favorite to win the Affiliate Cup here at the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. The only thing in their way may be Mother Nature. I mentioned earlier that we had severe storms in the Madison area, and for that reason, Well, the Mayhem team, they're actually staying in the RV park here at the Alliant Energy Center. They were forced to evacuate the RV park. Now, luckily, they have a big support system here, so they were able to crash on hotel room floors and couches from friends and Mayhem family members. But they were forced to pack up their entire campground and bring it indoors of the Coliseum last night. And I was speaking with Roy McKernan, who is the VP of Business Development at Mayhem, and he said if there's any imperfections to Rich Froning's game today, you can blame it on Rory's snoring, which was rumored to be louder than the storm.
I'm just more disturbed by the fact that someone saw fit to make Roy McKernan a vice president.
Maybe the vice president of good looks.
Yeah,
I could go along with that.
Captain Handsome.
But anything that deals with operations,
yes.
you're putting yourself in a risky position. What I like to see is, Rich has always done a very good job at this. You think about the first time he really got exposed at the CrossFit Games was in 2013 during a pool swim and bar muscle-up event where he took nearly last place. And then since then, he's really worked on his swimming. Now, I'll say as far as a technical aspect, it's not that great. His right hand is really close to his face. You'd like to see him reach out way further than that. In fact, his non-breathing side, that arm is a pretty decent length. But the thing is, again, here at the CrossFit Games, it's just about getting the work done. And it can't be that bad if you're beating everybody in the water, right? So I would just like to appease the fellow swimmer audience and say, I know it's not the most technically proficient movement, yet he's still beating everybody in the water.
Doesn't matter how you do it, just do it.
It's no style points.
But now through Sunday, August 1st, redeem a free pair of NOBULL Performance socks with your purchase of more than $99. Head to NOBULLproject.com/CrossFit and use code GAMES at checkout to redeem these socks. After this 500-meter swim, it's the 1 mile kayak. The pair from I Love It, Mitchell Stevenson and Justin Thompson, did a very good job of working together in the swim portion of this event. Will be interesting to see if they do that in the kayak portion. Rich Froning and Chase Hill have stayed close together, but really interested to see too what they do on the kayak portion.
We've got people going on the wrong side of traffic. And that's the problem with sighting, is that you just don't see where you're going. People are so focused on not sucking at swimming as they forget sighting is a part of open water swimming just as much as the swim stroke itself. No need to make 500 meters 750 because you're swimming left to right on an out and back course.
It does look like the pair of Rich Froning and Chase Hill in the yellow swim caps. They're wearing those because they are technically the defending champions, so the champions from 2019, since there was no competition last year. They are in the lead. And will be the first two men to the kayaks if this keeps up.
It's a very short stroke for Rich, as we said before. I just say reach out a little bit further. But again, that's just comfortable in the water. When it comes to this distance, at this speed, and the fatigue, as long as whatever makes you comfortable and keeps you moving, that's really just the best option at this time.
Froning is out and takes a look over his right shoulder to see where Chase is.
What is about Rich coming out of the water? It always looks like he's moving in slow motion. The openings, we call that bay watching. It's a good, solid group of athletes coming out of the water together. And it'd be really nice if a couple of them are still the pairs that they had coming in, because I'd really like to see a good race on the back end with this kayak, and hopefully we can see some teams working together. Good old shake and bake style is what I'd like to see out there on the water with these kayaks.
And Rich Froning and his team, they're a veteran-laden squad. They only have one member of the team who's under 30 years old. That is Taylor Williamson. She's 27. The Froning is out. He will grab an oar, grab his paddle. And Chase Hill should be close behind him. And Rich is not going to hold up for Chase as more men now emerging from the water. There is Chase Hill. And he will drag his kayak into the water and try to get close to his teammate. Froning out front here in event number 1 for the teams. It's going to be a busy day of competition for them. 4 total events here in this opening day for the teams. And unlike the individuals, they do not get a break. The individuals are off today. The teams will have 4 events today, and then they will compete again tomorrow, Saturday, and then through Sunday.
Straight through. See Rich hit that nice cycle of the stroke. What Chase is doing is that he has actually a really narrow grip on the shaft of that paddle, and there's an optimal grip. And what that really is that if you were to, it sounds silly, but put the shaft on top of your head and then your elbows at 90 degrees, that's the optimal grip for the paddle. Now you can mix it up, you can move your hands out, you can bring them in to kind of mix up muscle groups to give some other fatigue, but if you think about a cookie cutter position, that's how you set your grip for your paddle.
And unlike yesterday, where the conditions were relatively calm, there is some noticeable wind out there, and that can have a big effect, especially with the kayak.
And the wind changes because the course is not an out and back like the swim. There's actually 2 turns on this course. So the wind is going to affect the direction of which you kayak 3 different ways, because you have an out, you go over, and then you come back. So you're going to have to be facing a few different wind directional challenges throughout this course.
Past the 36-minute mark, 90-minute time cap here in this opening event. More men emerging from the water and getting started on the back half of their portion of this event. The women have already gone. The men did a 500-meter swim, and now it's the 1-mile kayak. And remember, it's not where your first man finishes, it's where the second man finishes, and they need to cross the finish line together.
And when you're in this format of being able to see where everybody else is and hopefully know where your partner is if you stayed close together, that's going to have a big impact on how you race. Now, if you look at Rich's kayak, how it's veering almost a little bit at an angle. This is a special term in the kayak terms, and it's called weathercocking. And what that means is that the kayak will naturally turn in the direction of the crosswind. So if the wind is hitting him from the right, the boat will naturally, and you can hear the wind, right? You can listen how windy it is out there. The boat, see how his kayak is just angled a little bit? That's because the wind is coming in from the right, so his kayak has a tendency to naturally turn that direction. So as I said before, you're gonna have 3 different directions of which this kayak is gonna get hit with the wind. So you need to adjust for that as you're paddling through this second part of the event.
And Rich Froning continues to look over his shoulder to see where Chase Hill is. Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson in the bottom left of your screen. Watching their male counterparts as they look to get an event win here in the opening event. Again, Mayhem Freedom, the overwhelming favorites to win the Affiliate Cup this year. We talked about it at the top of the broadcast here. Super teams are no more, in theory.
Right.
But Mayhem Freedom managed to get even better because of that rule with 2 of the most accomplished female team athletes in the CrossFit Games.
That's the first turn, so they're going to take a left turn out on the course. Like I said, the wind seems to be going from right to left if you were facing the direction that they're going. So now you have a little bit of a backwind, right? This is good, right? This is going to actually push you a little bit further or a little bit faster down the course. Now, when you take your last turn, the wind's going to be hitting you from the left side. If you're looking at it from front to back, it's actually the port side of the kayak on the final stretch of this mile kayak.
Rich Froning and Chase Hill, the 2 men who are out front, teammates from CrossFit Mayhem. And like I said, Rich looking over his shoulder to make sure that he doesn't leave Chase too far behind. No reason to work harder than you need to here, because it is when your second man crosses the finish line.
And it's also a long weekend, as you said, today. You have 4 consecutive days of competition. You have 4 events to do today, and they are very tough, physical, demanding tests that are coming up after this event for the team. So there's no reason to do more work than you need to get the same 100 points.
Approaching the 40-minute mark
good view from Rich's kayak on the left side is the stroke length that you need. And a typical length is you want to anchor that paddle right. What's up, Rich? How you doing over there? You want to anchor the front part of that blade right at his feet. So he's doing actually a very good job, and then exit right at the hip. So he's a little bit in front of the toes, a little bit past the hip. What some people make the mistake of is they think that bigger is better, right? That's only with the size of the kayak and speed. But as far as your stroke, you don't want it too far in front, because if you actually reach too far in front, it's going to turn your kayak in the direction away from where you're paddling.
And think about how smooth Yonakoski was yesterday when we watched the individuals do that. And Rich Froning pretty much mimicking what Koski was able to employ to great effectiveness yesterday to win the event for the individuals. And you're right, we saw a lot of athletes who tried to get way out front, make that hard pull, and they were careening all over the place.
Exactly. And the one thing that I would say that doesn't aid but has an effect on it is that these kayaks don't have something called a skeg, or a fin at the back end or the bow part, stern part of the kayak. And what that does is that it just lets it anchor and keeps it a straight directional thing. You don't have that. So that's why the wind has more effect on the direction of the kayak. That's why the way you paddle has a more effect. And this is a great view of seeing what the wind does. We said the wind is going to turn the front end of your kayak going straight. So Rich is coming straight at us, but the angle of the front part of his kayak is being affected by the way the wind is hitting it. You can see the same thing is happening to Chase behind him. Okay, so that weather cocking is actually turning the kayak, again, into the direction of which the wind is hitting on, I would say, the way they're coming is that's the starboard side of the kayak itself.
Rich Froning and Chase Hill were able to overtake the pair of Mitchell Stevenson and Justin Thompson from I Love It on the swim portion of this event. I Love It had the early lead, but it has been all Mayhem Freedom, and expect to hear that a lot over the next couple of days. "42 minutes now gone by in the opening event for the teams here on Lake Monona. Mayhem Freedom looking to lock up 100 points and start their competition off with an event win.
This looks so comfortable in the water. We said upper body pulling strength is a massive advantage when it comes to kayaking. And if you just look at the size of Rich and Chase themselves, clearly they have a lot of upper body strength when it comes to this event. So it's definitely an advantage, but the technique is great. You have a nice, appropriately wide grip on the shaft of the paddle itself. Again, a great angle of look at the angle of which Rich's kayak is. That's what we're talking about, that when the wind is hitting you, right? And that's something you need to navigate. But if you've never been on it before, you probably just think you're paddling in the wrong direction, or you're overdoing the left side versus the right. And that's just one of those little nuances that is really fun about introducing a kayak to a field that's probably never done it unless they've done a trip to the Caribbean.
It was only announced that the athletes would be in kayaks on Tuesday night at the athlete dinner, Monday or Tuesday night. It was earlier this week. And Rich Froning will exit, and he will wait for Chase Hill, and the two of them will lock up an event win for their team, 100 points to start things off here at the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games.
Waiting for
fist bumps for everyone.
And here comes Chase Hill. Rich Froning and Chase Hill crossing the finish line together. And an event win for CrossFit Mayhem Freedom.
Crossing that finish line first in and around 43 minutes, 40-ish seconds.
It is the 22nd time Rich Froning and his team have won an event at the CrossFit Games.
just made it look so easy.
Good job.
So incredibly unfairly. And it's not unfairly, right? They put in the work. They swim constantly. It's basically like CrossFit summer camp up there in Cookeville anyway. So they've probably been on a couple paddle boards, stand-up, kayaks. And it just shows that just having proficiency and comfortability in the water is almost more advantageous than having just purely fitness.
43 minutes, 49.35 seconds. Other teams have their first male athlete through.
All 2 members.
Have to cross the finish line together.
Rich and Chase did a great job of staying together. Staying ahead of the field, going 1-2. That was very surprising. You figured that of all the athletes in there, there would be someone in between the two, but that wasn't the case.
4 teams have their first male athlete through. And now we will have a team finishing second.
All right.
Trying to get a number off the swim caps.
I believe that is CrossFit Pro 1.
Pro 1 Montreal is in.
That was one of the teams, if we had to maybe manufacture some drama for the weekend, is that was one of the teams that could be in the mix for a podium spot.
We got our third team to
Third
finish,
team is in. That's
Big
the Pro 1 Montreal has a time of 45 minutes, 25.21 seconds.
Here's where it's going to get exciting as those second athletes come in.
And now more teams coming across, so we'll update you as the scores fill in. But here's who's finished so far. Mayhem will finish first. Pro 1 is second. The team from CrossFit Surbiton will finish third. CrossFit Butcher's Lab is fourth. CrossFit Awaside has come in fifth. CrossFit Urban is sixth. And from the port, the team from Finland is in seventh. So a lot of European teams doing very well here early on.
Wow. That's good foot races at the end.
CrossFit Guinness is in. CrossFit West Chase has come across.
crossing the finish line, followed by
The top 10 teams are in. CrossFit Reignited Wilmington. Wilmington, North Carolina, they are in. 11 teams have now crossed the finish line. The team from CrossFit Surbiton, the team that finished third, that is Motion, their team name.
Here comes another team getting ready to cross that finish line. Maybe that 2 teams.
CrossFit Nordic, they come in 12, and I love it. The team that had the lead on the swim portion, they are in 13th place.
Now they stayed together, but as we said before, is that side stroke is much slower than your classic freestyle.
14 teams are in. It's 6'4" Army Gold just crossed, and now CrossFit Oslo, they are in. 15 teams have now finished. I mentioned earlier, European teams doing very well. There has never been a European team on the podium in the Affiliate Cup competition ever. Ever.
Racing to the finish.
Wow. One of these teams hoping to break that streak here in 2021. CrossFit Resurrection has finished.
Come right into the order, right into the order.
8th day CrossFit, getting it done at 48.
Behind these guys in line.
We're seeing a lot more pairs come together in the back half of this event.
19 teams.
Bergen Limitless finished 17th. 8th day CrossFit is in, and CrossFit Holistic have finished.
Oh, Mike McGoldrick coming out of the water.
Pro 1 in
The
second.
training think tank coming across. They will finish 20th. Mike McGoldrick, a former individual games athlete. He and his wife on this team together, the training think tank team.
There's Lone Star. coming out of the great state of Texas.
The Lone Stars in 21st place, 49 minutes, 5.85 seconds. 21 teams now have finished, so more than half the field is in here.
Seeing the athletes on the left side is standing there for quite a while, it seems. And again, they could have been out there helping their partner, speeding up the pair collectively. As I said before, in a kayak especially, when you work side by, or I would say back to front on drafting, it actually makes the whole group collectively faster, not just the back athlete.
Here are the top 5 teams that finished. Mayhem Freedom, they were the only team to go sub 44 minutes. They lock up 100 points. CrossFit Pro 1, they finished second, 45 minutes, 25.21 seconds. Motion, the team out of CrossFit Surbiton, they are third. Butcher's Lab finishes fourth, and it's CrossFit Awaside that finishes fifth.
Yeah, and the good thing is it's still 3-point difference.
Not that bad.
You beat by 2 minutes, still the same point difference on the leaderboard. So, thing is that Mayhem didn't look like they were working too hard to get that
finish.
That's
the scary thing.
Having a nice little conversation. Hey, good job out there, buddy. that was a nice little warm-up for the rest of the
Let's go hit a nice finishing piece. What do you say? We break out the rower and the barbell and just get a little cool down.
A little strength component to our Metcon strength day.
22 teams have come across. Unlock yourself with 24/7 recovery, sleep, and strain insights from Whoop. Go to whoop.com/CrossFit and get $30 off your membership today.
Here come our next. There you go. Ran the opposite direction.
Waiting to find out the identity of the team that just crossed the finish line.
Here we go. Our next team crossing the finish line.
There's Omnia that came in 23rd place.
Omnia CrossFit. I believe that is Invictus.
Invictus is in. They will take 24th unofficially. Timberwolf CrossFit is across.
Under 2 minutes.
25 of the teams are in.
Like the hot tag as our next team crossing the finish line, that is Backcountry CrossFit.
The Backcountry is in. Rhapsody is in.
Rhapsody CrossFit.
Guys, fall in line, stay in order right here.
Yeah, Decorum CrossFit. About 10 more teams still out on the course.
23.
Decorum CrossFit, the Ohio Brutes. More teams now coming across the finish line, but nobody did it more quickly than Rich Froning and company, the team from CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, and they are with Nikki Brazier.
52:54.
Congrats, you guys. Way to kick off your competition here at the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. There were so many different techniques. We saw some teams drift apart, some teams stayed together. What was your strategy for the team going into this?
Every man or woman for themselves. Okay. Andrea's a really good swimmer. Taylor's gotten way better. She did exactly what she needed to do, kept us close. And then me and Chase, it was just basically we were racing each other. And so it turned out pretty good.
How much experience did you guys have as far as, figuring out how to draft off of each other, getting in a kayak like this before?
I think the drafting technique on swimming is a little too hard. We have different swim paces, I guess. So we didn't really think too much about that. If me and Chase were smart, we might have drafted since we were so close on the kayak, but we didn't do that. So it turned out all right, though.
Let Let me ask, I know you've been on the podium with this team a number of times, but some of you guys are a little bit newer here. What is sort of just the big overarching goal at the end of this weekend?
We'd like to go away with the gold. Yeah. That's it.
That's it. Easy enough. Well, congratulations, you guys. Way to start the weekend off right. Thank you.
I guess to keep it interesting, sometimes they just have to compete with themselves.
Yes. Every man for himself. Hey, if it works for you, great.
That's great. Again, 100 points in an event win. But as you said, just a 3-point difference between them and Pro 1 Montreal. Pro 1 has to be very happy with that effort.
Well, especially in an event like this. It's so out of the box. It's so classic CrossFit Games. You're going out to the lake, some open water, you're throwing a kayak at them and seeing what they can do. And this is one of those is unless you actually practice this with your teammates, you're just going to have to get through the first part, the start of the weekend, a very long weekend, 4 days of competition. I mean, we have, 4 scored events today alone to start things off on a Thursday. So we're going to get back into the stadium. We're going to work our way back into the Coliseum. We're going to see those classic CrossFit events come out that's more traditional. Barbells, odd objects, some pull-up work, and some ring gymnastics. So we're going to see a lot of different variants over the course of the weekend. This is just one of those outside-the-box tests that we classically see at the start of competition.
Visit wit-fitness.com/CrossFit to shop all the training brands you love. Use promo code GAMESWEEK15 for 15% off. While we were speaking with CrossFit Mayhem, 4 other teams came across the finish line, so now 32 have finished. CrossFit Eichstätt, Man-Made CrossFit, CrossFit 1855 with Corinne Schrum.
Oh, wow.
They came in 31st place, and then Blue City CrossFit in 32nd. Blue City CrossFit with Taylor Stride, who was out front early, finishes behind Corinne Schrum and company. That's just...
For Corinne Schrum, the classic was like, hey, not last. Not last.
That's Team Dubai there, getting set to come across the finish line.
Got ourselves another team crossing the finish line.
33rd place for them. Leaves 4 teams still out there. 12 Labors, Edo CrossFit, Coda CrossFit, and Q21.
Oh, Bryce Collier, Coda CrossFit. That is an OG buddy of mine from back in my competition days, which was a long, long time ago. But what's crazy to think is that Coda CrossFit has had, they had 5 teams that made the semifinals this year. 5. Bryce's team was the only one to do a virtual competition on the semifinals difference. And Bryce was the 3rd athlete in line for the team. 2 of their male athletes went down. Bryce was the coach. Bryce was holding the clipboard and like, hey, 2 guys are down, you gotta go in. So he took off the headset, slapped on his old jersey, dusted it off, and went out there, and they qualified a team to the CrossFit Games for the first time in their affiliates' history, and they have been around for well over a decade. So it was really cool to see Coda CrossFit finally make the CrossFit Games, and I'm happy for Bryce to see him out there.
90-minute time cap, so still plenty of time left for the 4 teams remaining to get inside the time.
There you go. Wait for him. Might as well.
Del otro lado, dale.
Not without showing the rest of the boat.
Trying to figure out which of the 4 teams that was.
There he is.
Could be Q21 and Matho Vizcarra waiting for Gonzalo Cara. The 2 of them will look to finish together. Q21, one of the 4 teams still out there. Matho Vizcarra waiting on Gonzalo Cara, who you're looking at now.
I'd say as far as technique's concerned, he's sitting way too far down in the seat there in the kayak. He has his legs nearly out straight, and there's different foot positions on the top of the kayak, and he's using the further ones. You actually want to use ones that have your knees more bent it's going to sit him more upright in the back, right? There's a long limb position. Like, you don't want that. You don't want your legs straight because you actually use your legs to help with the paddle stroke itself. And a lot of athletes are just not, they're just straight arms, right? You see the paddle's in front. He's reaching more about mid-shin and barely in the paddle the back. And that's just all arms. It's just all upper body. He needs to put his feet back. You can see on the top of his feet, he's using the back pegs. You can move him out a little bit more, sit more upright, and then use your feet to turn your body to get that stroke done.
And Coda will come across the finish line. And they will take 34th in the event with a time of 59 minutes, 43.78 seconds. 3 teams remain. 12 Labors, Edo, and Q21. And that's the pair from Q21 that we alluded to earlier. They look to finish together here.
Front athlete is just, his grip isn't even symmetrical on the paddle, which is why the left side is pushing him to the right.
Mato Vizcarra is in front. Gonzalo Cara is the athlete behind him. So the two of them just sticking together here.
That's good. You want to see that. Like, if you're not going to go fast together, you at least kayak together, be a teammate, support your buddy.
Past the 1 hour mark, still 30 minutes to go before we hit the time cap. Q21 qualified out of the Brazil CrossFit Championship to finish second. Made it in by 15 points and really solidified their hold on that second and final spot by finishing first in the final event. They had a really good battle going on with Vila Luro in the semifinals. They were tied going into that final event, and then Vila Luro finished fourth. And that's what allowed Q21.
You just hear how windy it is out there, and that makes things, it makes things tough for a normal experienced kayak, but it makes things extremely difficult for those that don't have the experience, technique, or the stamina. Like, we talk a lot about, you know, technique, stroke, and all this other things, but like, if you don't have this endurance, right? This is a long aerobic endurance test. And if you don't have that, then it's compounded on the difficulty that it already is with the weather conditions, the uniqueness of the kayak itself, the fatigue of the upper body. You couple that with poor endurance, this is a nightmare event for you to start the weekend.
The Q21 is the final team. 12 Labors, their timing chip did not register when they crossed the finish line, but they are in. 12 Labors finished 23rd unofficially. The Q21 will close out this opening event as Vizcarra and Cara cross the finish line. Rich Froning, Chase Hill, Taylor Williamson, and Andrea Nisler as Mayhem wins their 22nd event.
They've already showered, had a nice breakfast, played a game of poker. From the start, mass crazy start to kick things off, and this is where you're going to lose track of your partner, and you know, it gets a little messy and a little violent there at the beginning. And as we kick things off, it was Taylor Stride out to the front. As we said, you know, if you have one good swimmer and one bad one, it really doesn't pay to be the fastest one on the team. And we saw how that worked out for them in the total team. And what it is, it's about staying together, keeping things close with you and your pair, because you're hindered by the slowest pair member for each team. But she was out early and she led nearly the whole way on the kayak. till Andrea Nissler had caught up and then passed her right about the halfway mark of the kayak portion of this. And, you know, Nissler's looking very confident. She's a decent swimmer, so she's not overly fatigued from that. But the first pair that stayed together was I Love It. Now, when the men hit the water, they had a pretty decent lead on the rest of the field, including Mayhem. The Mayhem men entered in right about 9th or 10th place overall. Now, they're not too far back of the pack, but you still got to get your way through the wash. And Rich said earlier, it's every man for himself, so you better keep up. And what Rich did is he tracked down I Love It fairly quickly because I Love It was still using that side stroke. And other teams got past them pretty early on in this portion. But Rich, he's worked on his weaknesses. He's had a long time to do it. They swim a lot out there in Cookeville. And it paid off because not only did he get ahead of everybody, but Chase behind him got there as well. So now the race wasn't between Mayhem and the rest of the teams. It was just between Rich and Chase on the last part of this kayak. And you know the way these guys operate is they're not just competitive with the other groups, they're competitive with themselves. Rich taking a look back, probably talking a little trash, saying, keep up, young blood. I tell you what, that might have been one of the more aggressive fist bumps I've ever seen. I was like, you broke my hands for the rest of the weekend. But Mayhem kicking things off with no surprise, getting first place overall for event number 1.
Only team to go sub 44. CrossFit Pro 1 will finish in 2nd. CrossFit Surbiton will finish in 3rd. It's a Butcher's Lab and then a pair of Australian teams, Awaside and then Urban. Just the beginning of what is a very busy day for the teams here on day 1. At 1 p.m., we'll have events 2 and 3 back-to-back tests, and then event 4 later on this evening.
Drastically different tests, and we're going to see you in events 2 and 3, and we're going to see a lot of the same familiar implements, but new ways to use them. So I'm very excited to see what we have in store for the teams in events 2 and 3.
Plenty of action still to come here for the team competition at the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. Embrace the mayhem as Rich Froning and company lock up yet another event win. They will be on top of the overall leaderboard as we return to the Alliant Energy Center for all the leaderboards and the latest news from the CrossFit Games. Go to games.crossfit.com. We will see you later today here in Madison, Wisconsin. The 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games are presented by Whoop. Unlock yourself with 24/7 recovery, sleep, and strain insights from Whoop. Thorn. Personalized scientific wellness. Trifecta. FitAid, the official recovery beverage of the CrossFit Games. And by CrossFit Training. Improve as an athlete and a coach. Explore CrossFit's training courses.
Renetta is moving to round number 3, along with Cohen. Vincent making sure he gets the thumbs up from the judge, lands it side to side, and he is going to roll towards that finish line. An appreciative glance and wave to the crowd. Vincent currently first place coming into day 3 and locking up another first place finish here. And the first event of our Thursday morning. A number of our ladies moving their road scored into round 3 territory. And well, Wall, McCullough, and Michelle all headed back. Movie ball muzzle-ups. So last look at the rig as we pass 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Jody Lewis wrapping it up. CrossFit Kilgore athlete takes it across the line. Right around the 11:45 mark. On lock up a solid second place finish for Jody. Jody currently at 11th place. We'll see what that does to his overall stint. See if that gets him into the top 10 before they head into the Coliseum for the next event. Got about 13 minutes. Number one battle at 57 minutes looking to close out round number 3 to go less than 2:45 on the clock. Number Oswald to finish up. Yeah, first athlete across the line. Wall joining her in round number 3. Kimbrell taking it to the line for the fellas. Athletes are coming up on 14 minutes on the ball. 2 minutes, athletes. You have 2 minutes remaining. We now have a number of our female competitors grinding through round number 3. On that clock, hopefully we're going to knock out the last 75 double unders and finish up strong with a time on their scorecard. races we completed by male athletes, and they will all finish up right around the 40-45 mark. Coming to bring it across the line for the guys. Athletes, you have 20 seconds. Annabelle will bring it across the line. And we're going to count down for you on 3, 2, 1. And that's time. Great job, ladies and gentlemen. Chest pieces, please. Athletes to your chest pieces, please. Athletes, 1 minute. Thirty seconds. 10 seconds. Stand by. All right, folks, here we go. Athletes of the 50 to 54 division taking the field. Leading them out heading into lane number 36, Brittany Brown. Following her up, following Hoffman, Money, Mayor Parks, Holberg, Besser, Goodr, Sentinel, Hinkle, Benoit, Ruggieri, Trio, Stewart, and Ray. For the guys, starting in lane number 20, Marquez, followed by Wilson Story, Kim, Potential, Lowe, Allen, Biaggi, Lucy, Meyer, Cloister, Bumble, Russo, Romano, Herbeck, Kevin, and Diaz. For our athletes in this age group, now the workout shapes out to be 15 bar muscle ups. You saw us follow the burn through that are all saying their names. Then we'll move to the contribution here. 30 calories for the guys, 24 calories for our female athletes, 100 double unders. When they reach their weight, they'll return to the rig, up to 17 bar muscle ups throughout this event. So we'll drop to 12 bar muscle ups. Calories for the same scale, an additional 100 double unders, and they'll head back in round number 3 for 9 bar muscle ups. They hit the calories on the skier, and a final 100 double unders. They sprint to the finish. Minute time cap in place. 2 minutes and 30 seconds of that elapsed already. All swallow our guy heading out. And manning their ropes for his first run through of double unders. None of our ladies now wrapping up that round. Back at the rig and are out to their ropes. Minutes in. First, we find fighting for every rep back at the weight. Don't hog another bar muscle. You're just 3 to go. Some of our athletes moving into round number 2 territory on both sides of the field. Wind dying down just a touch with his heat. The fact that early heat competition around. We're talking about the wind starts getting up average. Don't want that swing low rope. Category 3. Bernard loses all there's round 2 double numbers. Can't come out to join him. We are 9 minutes in. 9 minutes in. 7 minutes remaining. Are coming into the day second. This division in the top spot of the game. Just past 10 minutes on the clock. All the ladies make their way through round number 2 as well. Umpire done with round number 2. Advancing her rope to round number 3 territory. Past 11 minutes. Giving our eye across the field. With our first athlete to finish up. Almost looks ski. Back out to that rope. Knock off round number 3. Take that trip to the finish line. We are 12 minutes in. 4 minutes remaining, guys. It's 4 minutes remaining. Back at the Fittest On Earth. Losing that number 13 is the first to head back to the rig. Double timing his way out to the rope. Right in the hip pocket rope. Right there, next up. Kicks off his right runners. Got to come out for John, one rebel over your top 3 guys in the division. Coming into day 3. All clustered right there in the middle. And all working their way through their final round. A battle of double unders. Let's see who gets that sprint to the finish first. Here, 14 minutes, 2 minutes remaining, 2 minutes remaining. Less than 90 seconds. And Bernard Lucy glancing side to side, looking to lock up an event win here on Thursday morning. And Lucy will do just that. For second place, again, coming into today in second place. Less than 60 seconds, athletes. Seconds to go. Seconds. Bring finish up. Wave to the crowd. 20 seconds. She will finish strong. That's all done for this morning. And we'll count it down for you. 3, 2, 1. And that's time. Big round of applause for all of our athletes out there. Great job. We're going to go ahead and get started. Athletes laid out on the field. Great job. Athletes, when you grab your gear, exit out opposite the rig on the right side. We'll exit out opposite the rig on the right side. To your chest pieces, please. Athletes, to your chest pieces, please. Athletes to your chest pieces, please. Athletes to your chest pieces, please. Athletes, 30 seconds. Seconds. Oh, here we go. This is our men and women of the 45 to 49-year-old Masters division. We got our 45 to 49-year-old Masters athletes looking to crush this event. Their first event of this Thursday morning, day 3-4. Going to give a rundown of who is where. A quick rundown. Leading them out in lane number 39, Lynn Casotis. Followed by Azevedo, Edelman, Wood, Langer, Friend, Stevenson, Archer, Takahu, Peter, Crawford, Sakamoto, Mantro, Roth, Black, McAdam, Aguilar, O'Connell, Hoyt, and Sendanaki. So, the gentleman in lane number 20, Blatnicki, followed by Jenkins, Owen, Sala, Peddleson, Deconin, Diamond, Bates, Grubb, Hearn, LaSala, Head, Hamill, Anderson, Slovenia, Robinson, Hyder, Thomas, and Denman rounding out this heat. And just in the minute and a half, we can read the names, they've already crushed their first portion on the rig. Again, most of you can run down. There's a 60-minute time cut for this event. For these folks, it started with 15 bar muscle-ups. Let's get a 3-round workout. Probably take that first. I'll figure that out by the 3-round markers on the deck out here on the field. But it's a 3-round workout with descending bar muscle-ups throughout. So 15 bar muscle-ups to start. Then they'll move to the concept EC for $30 for the gentlemen, 24 for ladies, then 100 double unders for all. And then back to the rig to start round number 2 with 12 bar muscle-ups back to the skier for 30 and 24. Out for 100 double unders. And then a final trip to the rig for 9 bar muscle-ups. 30 calories for the guys, 24 for the room, all on the skier, and then 100 double unders for all to wrap things up. Wide a few folks making their way out the road. And again, environmental impact from the ground. Turf out here, so maybe a little bit different for athletes who are used to jumping in the gym. People doing a whole bunch of double unders at this point. They're keeping it pretty tight. On the fella side, Jason Grubb heading back. A number of the fellas now turning and starting heading back to the rig to kick off round number 2, Dylan with round number 1. Third overall leader also heading back. You got an eye on both sides of to the field, Jet Black done. With round number 1. Round number 2 in round 2. She will head back. Sabagaki also done. Round number 1. She goes right to work. Off-ball muscle-ups. Athletes, we are at 6 minutes. Work to all of our athletes. Two onto their double unders, deep into their double unders. And the black even Hazel coming for women's division. Down the white top with the black shorts. Right there, crush it on the ladies' side. Across with Central Houston. Just past 9 minutes. And there's no doubt round number 2. Just looking solid. On his ball muscles, hand in the air from the judge. Good short work of round number 3. Rapidly approaching 10 minutes on the time clock. A handful of our athletes in round number 3 on the men's side. advancing it around number 3 for the women. She'll take it back to the ring and give up round number 3 for bar muscle ups. Less than 6 minutes, athlete. Currently advancing, the current overall leader. Mike heading back to kick off round number 3. Coming up on 11 minutes. We're heading back out. Facing back on the road in the current overall leader in this event. This is going in this morning. On this event. One event. To his standing. Jeremiah Head in 5th place. Next up on the road. Same thing for Jeremiah as well. To improve on his standing. Taking the front, also on the road. That's 1, 2, and 3 for the doubles. Rapidly approaching 13 minutes on our time clock. Athletes have 3 minutes remaining. And it is going to be Lakota taking it across the line. Jason going to finish up just past that 13-minute mark. Israel heading in as well. Who is second in this event. Man, those are some clean double unders. By Jason, outstanding job. Ahead, bringing in. Brendan's Hall. Finishing up 3rd for the gentleman. Asal running across the line. With 2 minutes to go. Back on the women's side, man, back into round number 3. Andy Sakamoto coming out for round number 3 as well. We are on both sides of the field. We approach the third mark. Less than 60 seconds, athletes. picture of composure on the double unders, Haley Sakamoto. Finishes up 20 seconds remaining. Gonna count it down for you, 10 seconds, athletes. And we are done in 3, 2, 1. And that's time. Big round of applause for all of our athletes on the field. They did a great job. Facing the competition of the fourth first. Finish up, you exit out opposite of the rig on the right side. Opposite the rig on the right side.
Just being out on that same goal with them, it was amazing. It was my first games, and I came out here with 2 goals. One was the top 10, and one was to win an event. And being so close to him in this one just pushed me so much harder. I stopped chasing drumming for me. I was like, I'm sticking with the best, so I got to go good, and I beat him, so I was doing that.
Great job.
Thank you.
Athletes to your starting places, athletes to your chess pieces, please. Athletes to your chess pieces, please. One minute. Seconds. Ten seconds. Stand by. All right, folks, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be our young men and young women, 14 to 15. Our age group qualifiers, their first event of day 3 of their 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. Athletes in this heat, starting for the young ladies and lane number 39, Wookie. Followed by horses, Peppercopa, Pinto, Gonzalez, Silva, Smith, Meyer, Wall, Donovan, Christopher, Miller, Michelati, Dixon, Reed, Wally, Martinez Arzu, Beatty, and Smith. So the gentlemen starting in lane number 20. Rarick, followed by Quan, Beckwood, Sanchez Villarreal, Hogan, Candias, that's Rafael Candias, followed by Bush, Weber, Jenkins, Coolman, Mestre, Rodrigo Candias, Myers, Signano, Pina, and Bond. And for our 14 to 15-year-old athletes, it's going to be a 30 rounders like that in all morning, but you're just walking into 15 bar muscle up start. It'll be the 7 bar muscle ups each round. Bar muscles will be followed by 25 calories for the guys, 20 for the girls, and 100 double unders for all. So advanced row ropes, head back around for the 212 bar muscle ups, 25 and 20 again at that concept 2 skiers, with 100 double unders, and then a final round, 9 bar muscle ups, 20 and 25 calories on the skier, and one last push of 100 double unders. And a sprint to the finish, all with a 16-minute time cap. Pretty much even Steven coming out for the gentlemen and the ladies. Up with both sides. Out onto the first round of double unders, making really short work of the bar muscle ups and skier, just past the 3-minute mark. Good on both sides of the field. You got best to keep your opponent, but who is winning? Is they get into the round number 2. First of the front is heading back. Weber back at the ring. Bush also heading back. Weber playing in second. Gustavo Bush in 4. The ladies right in there with them. Even with the guys. First back to the rear, and should be the first on the concept 2 skier. Jasmine Coffee back there, not by herself. out to his rope. He'll be the first that he can get around number 2 for double unders for the guys. Marquez fencing his rope. He will back to pick up line number 2. Push with his way to the ring back to his rope to join Weber. They did 1 and 2 for the guys. Gabe Bruin also heading back out. That's your 1, 2, and 3 all clustered together in the middle. Ty Jenkins in the mix. Goodr coming into this morning. Smith back up. It's going to be Weber on the guy's side as they're heading back. Double time it back to that rig. We're going to hang on to that rig because Gustavo's in his hip pocket. And Gustavo heading back to the rig as well. First ever doing the same, but keep that pressure on. Smith currently in 7th, just over to climb that leaderboard. First ever in 2nd, looking to do the same thing, climbing that first place spot. But for sure, hang on to our top 3 position as we get closer and closer to that podium this afternoon. 3 o'clock in the beer garden, folks. Handling our awards and ceremony this afternoon, so you guys go and check that out. Show your favorite athlete. Now, folks, we are 9 minutes in. These athletes, folks, if you're just here as a spectator, make note. Feature all the CrossFit right here on the field. Isaiah Weber back out. Weber not wasting any time. Right to work on the double unders, running in between each one. You may not win with a good running, but you can certainly lose it fine. Transition always important. Isaiah Thomas on this game this morning. Cruz ready to keep the heat on. Cruz going right to work, smoothing these down.
It is Thursday at the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games, which means it is team competition is already underway. It is Derek Forrest, Tommy Marquez in the Coliseum at the Alliant Energy Center. Tommy, let's talk about team event number one, a different variation of the swim event we saw from the individuals. Just quick reacts.
Yeah, you know, we have these games level tests and twists that show up at the games, and I love that there's carryover from the individual side to the team competition. So the individuals aren't the only ones that get to play on the kayak, get to go swimming on the lake. We get to spread that love across all divisions, and I think it's a great way to kick things off for the teams.
No doubt. Let's take a look at the event standings after team event number one, and it's no surprise CrossFit Mayhem takes the top spot. And then CrossFit Pro 1 and CrossFit Motion there in third. So Tommy, talk about your thoughts on what we saw in that top five.
Well, I think everyone was curious about what the new version of Mayhem is going to look like at the games as far as the swim event is concerned. But really, them winning the first event of the competition, this is the first time they've ever won a swim event before. So their best finish ever to kick things off in this new swim format. You see Chase Hill and Rich Froning there, technically family cousins through Rich's wife. They come out early. The women have to go. They are first to tackle. We get to see this new pairing of Andrea Nisler and Taylor Williamson take the lead for Mayhem Freedom. Two athletes that competed against Rich and company in years past. They make the handoff to Chase and Rich, and once they got in the water, they showcased all the work that they have been putting in over at Rich Senior's pond just down the road over in Cookeville, Tennessee, doing a ton of swim workouts, and you can see the fist bump there. They know that they got 100 points. And for the first time ever, Mayhem leads from the very first event, winning the swim event to open up day one.
As for the rest of the top three, just talk about what you saw from those guys.
Yeah, some interesting performances across the board. Teams like Pro 1 Montreal, CrossFit Cerbatron, who's also Motion. For Pro 1 Montreal in particular, they were one of the teams that we thought could maybe push for the podium. And, you know, you see Mayhem Freedom take home the top spot, but when you're able to do, I guess, damage control, quote unquote, and only give up 3 points to them overall heading into the rest of the day one, I mean, that's about as good as you can ask for. And then Cerbatron, they went by Motion, a team out of Europe. Haven't gotten to see a ton of them so far because they competed virtually at the Lowlands Throwdown. But remember this, they won 3 of those events, especially in some of those in-the-gym type settings. So when we move into the Coliseum, into the North Park, they could potentially take home some 100-point events.
We've got a couple more events on the team side of things later today. What are your expectations for the rest of the day?
Well, you got to look at the slate of events here. We get a 2-for-1 over at the North Park. We get one of those games elements for the teams, the Big Bob. That's going to show up for the first time. A ton of synchronized gymnastics and a little bit of that cheese curd Husafel stone hold that we're going to see that's new this year as well. So a ton of teamwork as well. And then we get that theme of carrying over from individuals to teams. We get to see the wall walks and thrusters for the teams in the Coliseum as well.
Yeah, well, coming up next, we're going to hear from the GM of Global Affiliates, Gary Gaines.
Hi everyone, my name is Gary Gaines, and I'm the General Manager of the affiliate vertical here at CrossFit Home Office. I'm incredibly honored and humbled to be a part of the team that is bringing you this resource, the Affiliate Playbook, reinforcing our commitment to the Affiliate First initiative here at Home Office. When you talk about the magic and power of CrossFit, 3 things often come to mind: community, member experience, and culture. We're incredibly excited to consolidate best practices that reinforce the how and the why to achieve success in those 3 areas. We're excited for you to dive in and really eager to go on this journey with you.
Can wear a hat, I'm wearing a hat.
All right, joining us now, the GM of Global Affiliates, Gary Gaines. Thanks for joining us.
Good, man. Good to see you.
Great to see you guys, too.
Let's talk about that program and just what are you guys working on in terms of what it represents for CrossFit Affiliates?
Yeah, so CrossFit Affiliate Programming, we're super excited about bringing it to the community. What it is basically daily coaching development tools to help our coaches really progress professionally. It's something that's been a long time coming, and we've got the experts, within the methodology, and to be able to operationalize that and deliver that to a daily product to the affiliate community is super exciting.
And so CrossFit's an international brand, over 150 countries you have affiliates in. What specifically are you looking at to support international affiliates and maybe grow the exposure there?
Man, so I've been here since September, and when I got in, we had a group of really, really hardworking 9 country managers, and what we've done is scaled that significantly. We've got over 16 right now. We're localizing our content. We're translating. We have global pricing. What we want to be is a different product to really create a unique field within these certain markets, and we've been able to do that. We've got a long way to go in emerging markets like China, Russia, India, Japan, but we'll get there.
Gary, you guys doing everything you can to help affiliate owners. If someone wants to reach out to throw by an idea or some concepts, who do they talk to about that?
Yeah, so we've got a really robust network of field leaders, and that was, from my operational background, something that I really focused on doing. So 99% of our global affiliates have a person that they can connect with and ask these questions to help them navigate the obstacles that come up on a daily basis. In terms of CAP, we have programming at CrossFit.com. It's our first consumer-facing product, so we want to be able to have that intimate relationship with them and somebody they can directly reach out to. So
awesome. Thank you, Gary, for doing this. Appreciate it. Stick right here, though, real quick. How about our colleague, Annie Sakamoto, crushing it so far this week? She's in a tight race for the top spot, trying to creep up there. What have you seen from her this week, Tommy?
Well, coming into event 6, she was only 5 points back, and better yet, she had the tiebreaker, winning 2 events along the way. A tremendous performance from Annie Sakamoto throughout the weekend, just a few points behind Allie Crawford. But I'm happy to report that just recently they came off of the floor at the North Park, and it appears that our friend and colleague, Annie Sakamoto, may have taken the overall lead coming in to the back half of the final day. Annie, tremendous on legless rope climbs. This was event 2, one of her 2 event wins that she took down on the weekend. I mean, she is just an absolute ninja, a phenomenal performance. And I told her before this weekend, you better show up to the desk with a medal around your neck. Come home with your shield or on it, and it looks like she's doing that.
She's keeping that promise. Several top finishes for her this week so far. We'll see how she finishes out the day, but that will do it for day at the games. Stick around, as team event 2 will be coming up next. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Derek Forrest. We'll see you a little bit later.
1, 2, 3.
Hey gang, Eric Rosa here. Welcome to the new affiliate playbook. I'm really excited to introduce this to everyone. When I opened my box in 2014, the things that drew me to having my own gym when I was pretty busy in life were really threefold. One was I was looking for more meaning in my life. 2 was the opportunity to have an incredible impact on individuals, such as CrossFit had on me and the coaches I'd interacted with. And number 3 was that there were so few rules involved, so I could kind of use my gym as a creative canvas. And that was really appealing to me. I had no interest in something that specified every little micro step I needed to take. Since that time, I just have been thinking about, wouldn't it be great if there were best practices? There must be best practices to leverage. There are 12,000 gyms. There are different ways to do things. And if we could set this up in a way where we provided tools and a toolkit without the rules and said, look, you're welcome to do what you want within these parameters, but here's some things that have worked for others, and really getting the best, most successful box owners on the planet, really, and getting their input on how we should think about these things. That's what the affiliate playbook is. And the beauty of this book is it's going to give you some thoughts about how to do it if you choose to go down that route. So really looking forward to your feedback as you start to dig into it, and we'll continue to iterate on it and get it better as we get more and more best practices from the community. So thanks for giving it a shot, and we look forward to hearing how it goes for you.